Good afternoon. We'll just give it another minute. I know we had some technical problems this afternoon, and so our time got switched around a little bit. Um, yeah, so I'll just give people a few more minutes to join, and we will be sending out the recording to everyone who had registered. So hopefully, um, even if this time didn't work, you can still get the information that you need. So I will give it one more minute and then we'll get started. Okay, we have a few more people on, so we will begin. I am here, Breanne O'Reilly. I'm the program manager for Petrochemical, and I am here with Lisette Cameron, who's our analyst with Petrochemical. However, her video is not functioning. So you will hear her voice, but you don't get the pleasure of seeing her face today, just me.
Hi.
So I'd like to start off by apologizing. As I said, we did run into some timing issues where Zoom was on a different time than was in Lisette and I's calendar. So we will be sending this recording to everyone who had registered for the event. And I hope that the people who have been able to join us today do find this valuable. And if you're watching this after the fact and have questions for us, please feel free to reach out. Our contact information is on the final slide. I would like to start by acknowledging that we live, work, and play on the traditional territories of the Treaty 7 nations, the Piikani, the Siksika, Kaana, Stoney Nakoda, Tsuut'ina First Nations. We acknowledge the ancestral territory of the Siksika Sitapi, the Blackfoot Confederacy, home of Métis Region number 3. And it's Indigenous History Month, so I do invite you all to check out a little bit more about the land that we are living on. I will start by sharing our webinar here, our slides. To start with, this project and this work that we've done on petrochemical information has been funded. Sorry, where do I go for the proper? Oh, down here, I think maybe. Sorry, this project is funded by the province of Alberta, working in partnership with the Government of Canada to provide employment support programs and services. Opinions shared on this webinar are Petrochemical's and do not necessarily reflect those of the government. Put your question into the Q&A and we will answer them as we go. I am just going to turn off my video because I noticed it is getting very glitchy and it's going to be a challenge for me to control anything. I'm not sure. If you guys still hear me. Sorry.
I can hear you, Breanne. You're just a little glitchy.
going to try to keep going. Lisette, can you still hear me?
I can hear you now, Breanne.
Okay. Were you able to hear the funding acknowledgement and the opinions piece?
No.
Okay. So I'm sorry. We are clearly having a Zoom day. Programs and services. Opinions shared in this webinar are Petrochemicals and do not necessarily reflect those of the government. If you have any questions or problems throughout the webinar, please raise your hand or add your questions to the Q&A, and Lisette and I will do our best to address them as we go. So, as I said, I am Breanne O'Reilly. I am the program manager for Petrochemicals. I am here with Lisette Cameron, our analyst with Petrochemicals. And we are going to take some time today going through the petrochemicals and refining industries across Canada and specifically in Alberta, where the information is available. We will be going through a recent survey of innovation and business strategy that was done by Statistics Canada, and we will end the session with some questions. So, petrochemicals. Today, when we're talking about petrochemicals, we are speaking specifically about industrial and agricultural chemical manufacturing. And what might that be? So when we take a look at this lovely flow chart that I have adapted by the Canadian Energy Regulator, we start with oil and gas as our product that we get out of the ground. Oil and gas is then put into feedstocks such as butane, condensate, natural gas, propane, ethane, and then it's put into basic chemicals, chemical intermediates, final products, and then to the end uses such as our clothing and electronics, equipment, pharmaceuticals, that type of thing. So today, when we are talking about petrochemicals, we are talking about the industrial chemical manufacturing, which includes those basic chemicals. Those are companies who transform raw natural resources into organic and inorganic chemicals. And then we're talking about synthetic resins and fibers. So the companies who use basic chemicals to produce and polymerize them into synthetic resins and fibers. Sometimes those companies are buying the chemicals from other companies, and sometimes they're producing them internally. And then we're also talking about the agricultural chemical manufacturing. And so those are the fertilizers and pesticides. So fertilizer companies using raw resources and creating a chemical reaction to produce their desired product. And in Canada, pesticide companies are primarily involved in blending, not producing the active ingredients. So, when we take a look at the size of this industry, this is in Canada, and the chemical manufacturing industry as a whole has employed 87,700 workers in 2020. Employment in industrial and agricultural chemical manufacturing was 27% of the total chemical manufacturing employment. And over the last decade, employment peaked in 2013 at 28,000 and has remained relatively stable from 2015 to 2019, with a range within 26,000 and 27,000. As COVID hit, you will see that employment did decline by about 2,000 workers, or 7.6% year over year, to about 24,000. And when we talk about the distribution of energy employment, so you'll see here that petrochemical industry employment represented about 14% of the total energy industry employment. And this employment is concentrated in Ontario, Alberta, and Quebec, with Alberta having about 23% of that employment. There were smaller pockets of employment in the basic chemical subsector in BC, Manitoba, and in the fertilizer and pesticide subsector in Saskatchewan and New Brunswick. Now, when we talk about the petrochemical regions in Alberta, we are talking about the industrial region located northeast of Edmonton, which includes refining, petrochemicals, and other heavy industrial uses. This group of employers, I guess, include ethane cracking, producing polyethylene plastic, styrene monomer, and nitrogen fertilizers. In central Alberta and Joffre, the primary petrochemicals capacity revolves around ethane crackers operated by Nova Chemicals and Dow producing polyethylene plastic resin, monoethylene, glycol, and other oligomers. Medicine Hat is an established petrochemicals cluster in southeast Alberta, and that includes the production of methanol and nitrogen fertilizers. In Grand Prairie, it's an up-and-coming petrochemicals cluster, and they're seeking some investment opportunities still with an emphasis on methane-based petrochemicals capacity. And then in the Yellowhead County, which is close to Edson and Hinton, as you can see there, it's a established oil and gas and other hydrocarbon sectors. I do have, sorry if I can get Zoom to cooperate with me. Oh, nope, I'm not going to be able to. Sorry, I did have a poll, but it's not happy with me today. So I will continue on and maybe we'll come back to the poll. So petrochemical employment is primarily men. So you can see that males represented 2/3 of employment in the chemical manufacturing industry, with that percentage being even higher in the petrochemicals subsectors. It is workers in the chemical manufacturing industry tend to be older and more experienced. In 2020, nearly half of those employed in chemical manufacturing were 45 or older. Now, when we're talking about the refining industry, I am referring to the companies who transform crude petroleum and coal into intermediate and end products. The primary process is petroleum refining, and that process involves separating crude petroleum into components through techniques like cracking and distillation. So when we talk about the North American industry classification system, this refining industry is grouped with petroleum and coal product manufacturing, but takes up most of the employment. So when we look at the size, the refining industry employed about 15,600 workers in 2020. And over the last 10 years, employment peaked in 2013 at 19,900 workers and remained relatively stable until 2019 with between the range of 18 to 19,000. As COVID hit, employment did decline by about 2,300 workers, or negative 12.7% year over year, to 15,600 in 2020. And the industry was concentrated in Ontario, Quebec, and Alberta, with Ontario having 36% of employment, Quebec having 23% of employment, and Alberta having 19% of employment. When we look at the demographics of the refining industry, you can see that it is mostly male, 90% male. and that workers are older as well, just like in the petrochemical industry. So we have over half of the workers are above 45. And with that, I will turn it over to Lisette.
Great. Thank you, Breanne. So just a little bit about the Survey of Innovation and Business Strategy. This is a survey that was recently done by Statistics Canada, and they talked to businesses across Canada, obviously about their business strategies, but also about some of their innovative work that they do. And Stats Canada talks to about, I think the survey sample size is about 15,000 businesses across Canada. We can go to the next slide. And so I'm going to start talking about skill shortages. As we know, finding workers with the right specialized skills can be challenging for businesses. And this table shows the percentage of businesses in Canada in exploration and production, in oil and gas services, refining, and chemical manufacturing that reported skill shortages in 2019. And just to note, the chemical manufacturing stats that I'm showing in this table, as well as the rest of the tables, exclude pharmaceutical manufacturing. So the most significant skill shortage to note is in skilled trades, and that's not a surprise. Just as a comparison across all industries in Canada, 59% of businesses reported skill shortages in skilled trades. If we look at the energy industry specifically, skill shortages in skilled trades came out on top for oil and gas services at 51%, 35% for refining, and 48% for chemical manufacturing companies. Now, if we focus in on refining, the next highest reported skill shortages were in areas related to information technology, and that's such as IT security and database administration at 15%, and computer science skills such as software engineering and artificial intelligence at 10%. Now, for chemical manufacturing businesses, 22% reported shortages in general data science and analytics skills, and that's such as data modeling and visualization. While shortages in computer science and international business skills were each reported at 18% for chemical manufacturing firms. And this is not likely to change anytime soon. I was just taking a quick look at our recent employment forecast, and a couple of those trades popped up in our top 15 occupations. So construction millwrights and industrial mechanics, as well as welders, are some examples of skilled trades in our list of top 15 occupations with the greatest net hiring requirements over the next 3 years. We can move on. So this table shows some of the measures taken by energy companies to overcome skill shortages. As you can see, refining and chemical manufacturing businesses took a variety of measures to overcome skill shortages in 2019. The most common for refining businesses was outsourcing work at 82%, which was significantly higher actually than for all industries as a whole at 36%. The next highest measure for refining businesses was conducting targeted recruitment processes at 74% and training staff at 35%. And just over 3 in 10 refining businesses said they also hired students to overcome skill shortages, which was slightly higher than the overall industry average of 28%. The most common for chemical manufacturing businesses was also outsourcing of work at 58%, followed by training staff, 46%, and conducting targeted recruitment processes at 40%. Next, we'll look at the training and development activities of companies. For refining companies, job-specific training was the top training provided at 84%, followed by close to 5 in 10 businesses saying they provided managerial training, and 1/3 of businesses providing training in new technology. Chemical manufacturing companies also reported job-specific training, training in new technology, and managerial training as the top training offered. However, as you can see in the table here, that the percentages of companies offering the training was below that of refining companies. These were also the top 3 training provided for industry overall. I can just give you some numbers in terms of comparison. So 78% of businesses, so all companies surveyed, provided job-specific training. So refining and chemical manufacturing businesses came in above average in that category. 31% of all industries provided managerial training, and so chemical manufacturing businesses were slightly below average. And 30% of all industries provided training in new technology, so both refining and chemical manufacturing businesses were slightly above average. Next, we're going to look at companies' use of advanced or emerging technologies. Statistics Canada defines advanced technologies as new technologies, such as equipment and software, that perform a new function or perform a function significantly better than the technologies commonly used in the industry or by their competitors. In terms of emerging technologies, these are innovative technologies that have been recently developed, are underdeveloped, or will be developed in the next few years. So just a few definitions so we understand what we're talking about here. And so as the table shows, in 2019, 44% of refining businesses and half of chemical manufacturing businesses used at least one type of advanced or emerging technology. The top advanced technology used by refining businesses was clean technologies, while integrated IoT systems or Internet of Things systems was the top emerging technology used. Clean technologies, as defined by Statistics Canada, are any goods or services that reduce environmental impacts through environmental protection activities or through the sustainable use of natural resources. Now, for chemical manufacturing businesses, the top advanced technology used was business intelligence technologies, while biotechnology was the top emerging technology used. And I just wanted to point out a recent study conducted by Global Advantage Consulting Group for the Clean Resource Innovation Network, or CRIN. They found that Canadian companies spent about $1.4 billion a year on clean technology investments. And 75% of that comes from the oil and natural gas industry. The investments are being used to create new technologies that drive down carbon emissions, water use, and land disturbance. And just as a point of reference, in 2019, 9% of all businesses in Canada said they use clean technologies. And finally, we'll look at the reasons for not adopting or using advanced or emerging technologies. The top reasons that refining and chemical manufacturing businesses said that they did not adopt these technologies was that the technology was not applicable to their business. followed by investment wasn't necessary for continuing operations. And nearly 1 in 4 chemical manufacturing businesses, or 22%, indicated the reason was difficulty in integrating new technologies with existing systems.
Well, I think that that was very interesting, Lisette. I can now do our poll. So I will start the poll. As I just say, if anyone has any questions, you can please put your questions into the Q&A and we will be able to answer those. But we're asking you if you know where the lowest GHG emitting propane dehydrogenation and polypropylene plant is being built.
I know, but it's saying that I am not allowed to vote.
You aren't allowed to vote. Only our attendees are able to vote. So we'll see if you guys know the answer. Do you know where the lowest GHG plant is being built? An answer so far that they think Sarnia, Ontario might be the right answer. So I will let you guys know that the answer is actually Strathcona County. The piece being, or the plant being built there is the lowest GHG emitting plant in existence. So we thought that was pretty interesting. And then I do have just one final poll for you, and hopefully technology cooperated a little bit on your end, as I know it was not the best for Lisette and I, but hopefully you were able to find today's webinar valuable. As I said, we did record today's session and we will be sharing that with all people who had registered. And if you do have any questions going forward or right now, you can definitely put them in the Q&A or send us an email. Our email addresses are there on the last slide here. So mine is brianne.o'reilly@energysafetycanada.com and Lisette's is lisette.cameron@energysafetycanada.com. But if we don't have any questions, I think we will end a couple minutes early, and thank you so much for attending. And we hope that this was beneficial for you. And as I said, let us know if you have any questions going forward. Thanks very much.
Thanks, everyone.